They'll blanket you in Wi-Fi and profit off the radiation. Congregation collecting the people for that Satan. I keeps it blazing, cause I can read between the lines. I ain't blind, we unwind what they're really saying. Genetically modify what you're tasting. Don't need that cottage promise, so now you live up in your mom's basement. Redesign time so your mind is always wasted. Program to crave the basics. Keep the beta in stasis. Pay the state, kid. You're in debt for being born. Messengers are more than just the price for being warned. Don't be alarmed. Disconnect from their machinations. Stop subscribing to the folly of own nations. Bone breaking ain't the answer, cause they seek the ownership of souls. Spread the seeds and watch them grow. Break the chains of control. Break the chains of control.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. Tonight on Rogueways, we are blessed to have with us a fellow paranormal experiencer and healer with decades of experience in the field of paranormality. Someone who communicates with animals, spirits, and angels, and who shares her gifts with us here today. She has written many books, started successful websites and ventures, has worked as a nurse and in the medical field, and also served in the military. She's a very accomplished and spiritually in touch woman. June Lundgren, welcome to Rogue Ways. It is a pleasure to have you here, and how are you doing tonight?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. It's Tuesday. I have tomorrow off. That's good.
That's always good. Yes, I'm excited. I get to take a little vacation coming up here, and I'm very excited to have a break and see my family. But before we jump in, I do want to give thanks to every single person out there who listens and watches and supports Rogue Ways in whatever ways you do that, whether it's commenting, sharing. Sharing is the best way to get this content kept alive and moving through. And so that's a really nice thing to do. And if you want to ever join the community at Locals or in Telegram, there's just some great action and content going on there too, and just genuine people who want to connect. So come be a part of that. All of you who already do are awesome. I think I give you my thanks as well. And of course, if you want to go to the site at rogueways.org, you can find all kinds more content, especially One Day of Brightness Autumn Equinox event is now live. We have Michael Wan, Chance Garden, and Catherine O'Shea, all friends of the show, who are going to be there at that event that day. Super high energy. If you've been before, you know how it is. It is an incredible experience to be involved with. And so I hope all of you check it out. If you get your tickets right now before September 1st, you have 25% off the ticket price. So we've already got some people who have jumped on that, and I'm very, very, very stoked about that. So it's going to be on September 26th. It's not quite on the autumnal equinox, but it's as close as we could get while still getting a day that most people could do. So it'll still be in those nice high vibes. And so I hope to see you all there. That's in the shop at rogueways.org. You can find the One Day of Brightness event and grab your spot. And finally, June, I always start with a pointless question of the episode, and I was going to ask you tonight, what is your favorite place to visit and why?
Stonehenge.
Ooh, that's a nice answer. Do you go there often? Where are you?
I've been there a couple times.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the U.S., but I have family in England, and I was supposed to go in June and for a wedding, but needless to say, because of the good old COVID, I didn't get a chance to go. But November's coming up. We'll hit it then.
Oh, good. That's
I
awesome.
like to go there because I can, if you take off your shoes, you can feel and see everything that was there, from way back. And so it's got really good vibes there. And it's where my second next book that's coming out is called Demon Seekers in the Darkness. And it's the second in the Demon Seeker series. And it takes place in Stonehenge.
Ooh. Are these fictional books?
They're fantasy books, yeah.
Ooh, that's exciting. So this is the sequel to one you've already got out.
Yeah, I have Demon Seekers, The Journey Begins was the first one.
Awesome.
It's a series of 8.
Is it adult literature and fiction, or is it aimed at slightly younger?
It's fantasy for, teenagers on up.
Cool. Yeah, my favorite books to read are aimed at teenagers because they're so fun still. I feel like once you get into the adult genres, they're all like boring and I don't know, adulty. Yeah. So I love that. That sounds fun. Well, cool. Well, tell us then about, where you started and what childhood was like for you. Were you always gifted?
Yeah. my mother kind of dumped me off on my grandparents when I was a baby, a couple weeks old, and so I was with them until I was about 6 years old. And
Oh,
my
wow.
grandmother's a psychic medium, and she knew right away that I had abilities. The animals would gather under my crib and listen intently. And then as I grew up, she knew I could communicate with them and I could see the angels. And Michael was the archangel. He was always with me from birth on. And so as I grew, my gifts got stronger, and my grandmother did as much as she could to teach me, but there's only so much. She was kind of limited in her abilities. But I've always been able to see demons. I've always been able to hear them, understand them. They speak in Aramaic, but my brain is kind of hardwired to interpret. So of course it's never anything nice, but that's how it goes.
So that Aramaic, you're saying you understand it automatically without knowing Aramaic, or do you know Aramaic?
Yeah, no, I don't know it. I don't know it consciously,
yeah.
but subconsciously. People don't know. I've had other mediums that have gone with me and stuff, and they're like, "What are they saying?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is what they're saying. It's not nice."
You don't really want to know, so I'll just translate a little.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's never complimentary.
No.
Ever.
Yeah. So since you were young, you've been interacting with demons as well?
When I was about 4.5, almost 5, it changed how I saw demons. I saw demons before that, and like most people do, as like a mass or a cloud or, a silhouette. But at that age, it turned to where I could see demons in their true form. And Michael said, the reason you see them is because you see them through angelic eyes. He said, you see them as we do in their true form. He said, I want you to study them. I want you to watch them. He said, you won't interact with them because I'll make sure that they can't see you. He said, but this is what I want you to do. So I'm like, you're a kid. You're like, okay, no problem. And so I did that through up until my teenage years. And I think the first time I actually unconsciously dealt with one of them was when I was in the military. And I was called in on a case where one of the people were missing, hadn't reported to duty for a few days, and they wanted, the ER crew to go over there with the ambulance because they were going to open up his door to his dorm. Nobody had seen him. They were afraid, I'm sure, that he was dead. But when we opened the door and I got in there, and he was like curled up in a ball, and over to the left side, I saw a demon hanging out in the corner. I was waiting for him to die, basically. So we took him back to the hospital, and we got him in the ER, and I went back into the room to start an IV on him, and the demon was standing over him, trying to pull his life force out of him. And it's like something came over me, and I just said, not this one. This one belongs to me, not you. And whatever it saw on my face, it just left in a hurry.
It saw angelic light. It was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yep. It's like, oh. Yeah, it's just like, and at that time, of course, I didn't know that Ariel was inside of me. It's like, you knew you were different. You knew you could do all these things, and you knew you could, understand the demons and stuff. You just thought that was just the way it was. And then when I died in a motorcycle accident in 1988 was when I went to the other side. And Michael, my grandparents were waiting for me. And Michael says, you're here because you have to understand who and what you are. He says, I said, I'm just me. He's like, no, you're thinking like a human. He said, stop thinking like a human. Then he touched my forehead, and I relived all 130 lifetimes in a split second. And he says, look upon yourself, look down, look at yourself. And I didn't have that body. I was like 7 feet tall, 12-foot wingspan, dark auburn hair, long, and blue-green eyes. And he says, this is who you truly are. He says, you're Ariel, the archangel, demon slayer. He says, you were sent back to relive human lives until you learn to have compassion for mankind. He says, it's been 130 lifetimes and we're still working on it. Shut up.
I can
But
relate.
it's like, so when I came back, there's a police officer standing over me. A woman had run a red light and hit me on my motorcycle. And so I was clinically dead for 2 minutes. And he looked really relieved when I opened my eyes. But I had no idea. This was 1988. I had no idea who Ariel was, and the internet was fairly new. And so I went on to try to find out who and what she was. But there was very little on her. The fact that she's one of the five that guard the throne of God, and that her name means Lion of God. But, since after that, it took me a couple years to deal with it, because it's like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah.
All right.
What, am I insane, or?
I'm not sure if I like this, and I just had my son, so it's like, But Michael says, I need to do a merge for you, because you and Ariel need to be one. Because you have to hear her thoughts, see what she sees, understand all the knowledge that she has. He says, I'm going to do what I call a merge. And I'm like, does it hurt? He's like, no. So he merged my consciousness, my physical consciousness, with her, the soul consciousness. And so I can see through her eyes, and I know what she's thinking, I know what she's feeling. I know the minute I see someone who thinks that they have demonic attachment, I know I know right away what type of demon it is, where it met them, so to speak, why it was drawn to them, and what it's been doing to them. And that's because of her. But people say that when Ariel comes forward, there's physical manifestations. My eyes turn white, and I look like I'm about 20 years old. My voice changes, and there are wings coming out of my shoulders. So it's like, for a long time I was doing the removals, and people always looked at me weird afterwards, but I never thought anything about it. And a friend of mine says, you do know that this is what happens, don't you? I'm like, no, I'm a little busy. I don't have a mirror. I'm a little busy taking out the demon. No, I can't be sidetracked. And of course she just rolls her eyes. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. I mean, I've been dealing with these things for 62 years, so it's like, it's just normal for me.
Yeah. You're very familiar with what other people. I think about this often. Like, if you could just suddenly transfer your understanding, or like your vision or whatever, to someone else, it would break them, right?
I can make someone see what I see.
Wow.
I had a friend of mine as a medium, and he says, I really think that I want to do what you do. And I thought, no, I don't think you want to do what I do. Like, I want to go with you. So I was called in on a case, and I was like, okay, I'll take you with me, but you need to protect yourself. You need to make sure you have your protection in place. And so we get to the location, and I'm inside the house, and I'm removing the demon that's in there, and then I hear him behind me saying, get it off me, get it off me. And I'm like telepathically telling Michael, will you just get it off of him, for God's sakes? So then we went outside, and there were two more outside, and he says, I want to see what you see. I said, no, you don't want to see what I see. So he said, like, yes, I do. I said, hold my hand then, you'll see what I see. He's like, oh my God. He's like, what are they saying? He says, I can't understand the language, but it doesn't sound good. And then one of them started running towards us, and he, broke the connection. And I just put my hand out and stopped it. And then when I was on Ghost Adventures, Zach Baggins wanted to see what I see. And I told him, I said, no, you don't. You don't understand. It'll give you nightmares. I said, I've seen them all my life. I said, you've never seen them in their true form. But of course he wouldn't take no for an answer. So I was like, okay. And he's like, what you don't see on the show is that he says, well, at first it was beautiful. He says, I saw white light, and it was just beautiful. He says, and then suddenly a curtain came down, and I saw it. And that's when he broke his connection with me. I asked him, I said, how's the back doing? And he's like, how did you know? I said, they always go for your weak spot.
Mhm.
I said, that's normal for them. And then he just like ran out of the hotel to a waiting car. And I'm like, okay, I have to take that from you. So you can't just run around with and seeing what I see.
Yeah.
And he called Billy, who was my cameraman, Billy Tully, and said, I'm seeing stuff. I'm hearing stuff. And he's like, dude, she told you. You're going to see what she sees. You're going to hear what she hears. Get back here and let her take it away. It's like, but, it's not for everybody to see, because most people, they would have nightmares, because when you see a demon in its true form, it looks a lot like an archangel. It's 7 feet tall. It's got a 12-foot wingspan, but it's onyx black with shades of gray, and everything is normal till you get to the face. The face, there's hardly any features whatsoever except the eyes. And when you look into the eyes, it's every evil that you can imagine and then some contained within the eyes. And a lesser person, it would just like, nightmares forever. But, for me, that's normal. And it doesn't bother me. It doesn't scare me. People say that it hurts to look at them. And I'm like, no, if you've never done it before, yeah, I can see where it would,
Yeah.
But it's just the way it is.
Well, and I imagine too that you have enhanced protection too. So it's not just that you're so used to it and familiar with it and have all this experience, but you're also like, I'm sure have almost the equivalent of like a layer of shield, right? So if other people are experiencing that, they probably don't have that if they haven't asked God for it.
Well, they have like Lucifer has and the old demons have respect for the Legion of Light. The Legion of Light was formed before the war between heaven and hell. God knew that it wouldn't be long before Lucifer pulled something. So he created what's called the Legion of Light. It's Ariel, Raphael, Michael, and Gabriel. And they are the elite. It's like, it would be equal to like a Navy SEAL snipers, they're the best of the best. And they in turn trained the warrior angels, and they in turn trained others. And they do have that respect for the Legion. And I think some of it has to do with the fact that Michael disarmed Lucifer during the war, and Ariel disarmed his son. And so they have that, they do have that respect. A lot of people say, oh, he's just, 100% bad. And I'm like, nobody's 100% bad, not even a demon.
Yeah.
There is that little bit, that little spark of light still there. But usually when it's activated, they'll crush it down because they don't want to have anything to do with it. But a few years ago, I had cleaned out a warehouse of some demons, some pretty nasty ones. And one of them popped up a little while later. And I'm like, oh, what's up with you? You're different. What's happened? And he's like, well, I didn't crush down the white light when it sparked. He said, I decided to go with it. And I said, well, what do you want from me? And he's like, I want to be a liaison, a go-between between the living and the darkness. And he says, I said, that's cool. And he says, but I want you to talk to Lucifer about it. I want Ariel to talk to Lucifer and get him to okay this, And I'm like, I can't guarantee anything. I said, but I'll have Ariel talk to him. And I went to talk to him, and he said, well, if the old ones approve of it, if I get a majority of the old ones to approve it, then I'll let him do that. And a couple days later, got the approval. So I told him, I call him Herb. I don't use his demonic name, but I call him Herb. I said, okay, Herb. I said, it's been approved. So, I said, I may call on you from time to time to have you help out. And he's like, no problem, no worries, I'm here. I'm like, okay, keep in touch.
So is that entity now starting the long ascent back up towards the light?
No, he doesn't want to go back to the light.
He wants to be where he's at.
He wants to be where he's at, the go-between, the helper. He said, because it shouldn't be this way. He said, there's more to it than this. There are circumstances, stuff. And he's one of the older demons, so he's been around a long time.
Do you oh wow, I totally lost what I was gonna say with do you ever encounter demons that do wanna like come back to the light or switch sides or however that goes?
I can honestly say that I can count on one hand the amount of ones I've come in contact with. But Ariel knows if they're honest about it or not. If they're honest about it, there's a certain criteria they have to go through. They have to, because Azrael is the one that stayed in the realm, the dark realm, to see him and 9 other archangels to see if there were any that wanted to come home, then he would be there and he would judge them, and to see if they really did, and he would help them come home. But it's I wouldn't want to stay in the dark for that long period of time. But he comes up from time to time. But he keeps his ear to the ground down there, because he gives Ariel heads up about things that are going on and stuff like that. So
That's cool.
Got a spy among them.
Yeah, I like. I've heard about rattlesnakes, that baby rattlesnakes are more dangerous, and I've heard the same thing about jinn, which are basically demons, right?
Demons, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you feel that way, that like the younger the demon or the younger the entity, the more likely it is to like lash out and do harm, and the older ones are kind of like seasoned, like
Yeah. The older ones are like, don't bother me. We're not worth the time and effort. The younger ones, the lesser demons, they're the ones you find in the physical world. They're the ones that are like hormonal teenagers.
Yeah.
They like to cause chaos. They like to party. That's the ones you usually find in the physical world. Rarely do you find an old one unless it's given an assignment by Lucifer. If it's given an assignment by Lucifer, it will do it, and that there's no ifs, ands, or buts. But there are also rogue demons. Demons that are out doing their own thing and they're not supposed to be, and Lucifer he's trying to keep track of them, because like anything, you're going to have the people that are full of distension, and he's got his share, and he handles it with an iron hand, let me tell you, because that would not be good for his rep if they got away with stuff and he didn't do something about it. So
that makes sense. You gotta have the pecking order very clear. Be the alpha, or else your whole group's gonna disperse. And
yeah.
Well,
go
ahead.
There have been times when Lucifer's come to me and said, I've got an issue. He comes to Ariel and says, I've got an issue, and this behooves you to help. It'll help both of us. And she'll listen to him and decide whether she wants to help him or not. Because every time she helps him, though, he owes her big time. So it's a matter of collecting later for what she does for him. But there have been times when I've done some stuff that would help both of us. You've got a rogue demon, or you've got somebody that's, causing trouble on both sides. Then you take care of business, and then he has to mow me, and I collect.
That's awesome. Do you what types of tasks, or I guess tasks is the best word, would the bigger, older demons be doing on assignment? Like, are they the ones that are making the whole world suck?
Well, it's like we had one that was given the job of turning this archbishop against the light to the darkness, and he made a half-hearted attempt at doing it and decided he just wasn't going to finish the job, and because it wasn't worth his time and energy. And Lucifer found out and tracked him down. And he says, you know what? If you're not going to do what I tell you to, then you suffer the penalty. So he entombed him in the rock of Alcatraz.
Oh, wow. Ew. No wonder it's such a creepy place.
Yeah, I've been there. It's like it's like the old demon down there. I'm like, yeah. He's like, no. He said, I can't leave. He says, because if I leave, he'll kill me. I'm like, yeah, that's true. I could kill you, or he can kill you. Take your pick. He says, I'll just stay here. He says, I'll just stay here. That's why there's always going to be demons there, because they're drawn by him. You know, they can feel him down there and stuff, so they're always there.
Yeah. Yuck. There's types of places like that, you know, where people who even aren't very sensitive, I think, can go and feel this and sense this and understand that this is a real thing. But it's really interesting to me because even many Christians I talk about a lot don't actually believe in demons. And when I had my first demonic encounter, I went to Christians and they thought I was crazy, you know, and I was like, and they're like, oh no, see, you're schizophrenic or whatever. They, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, you're not any help. Like, your book's right about this stuff. Like, why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, because they're afraid.
Yeah,
they don't want to know.
Face.
You know, and I asked Michael about that. I said, you know, Michael said, it takes me but a minute or two to remove a demon or to even kill it. I said, why does it take a Catholic priest so long?
Yeah, that's a great question,
and
too.
He says they have doubt. He says, the thing is, if you have doubt in what you're doing, in the process, in yourself, or the church, or faith in God, says you can try to do an exorcism till the cows come home.
Because they'll wheedle their way in there and like magnify that doubt.
They look into your brain. They pull out your weaknesses. They look for your weaknesses, and if they see them, they're like, this guy's
easy.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. You know, there's like people ask me a lot of times, like, you know, aren't you afraid of them? I'm like, why?
Yeah. Why would I?
I said, if you fear them, you're no good. It doesn't do you any good. I said, they'll find that and they'll use it against you. I said, I don't have any fear of them. Why should I? I've been seeing them all my life and dealing with them for, 46, 50 years. So it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think once you understand that too and you've experienced that, then you're even more like, why would I?
Yeah.
Why would I hesitate?
You can't, but people have that underlying fear. That's, I have a friend that's an ordained minister, and I did a show called Ground Zero, Clyde Lewis.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago. It was the first time I did it, and I got like over 200 requests for help in the first week.
Oh, see, this is why it's so disheartening that the church just ignores.
Yeah, they don't. You have to like practically die from a demon attack before they'll say, "Oh, yeah, maybe there's something to this."
Well, thank God you're helping people.
So I got called in. This woman was a possession case. I said, well, send me a picture, because once I get a picture, then I know it's there.
I can see it.
And God says, you need to ask him to come. And I'm like, because he fears the darkness. Because you can't fear the darkness and serve him. So I told him, I said, what are you doing Saturday? I said, I got a little deal going on here. And I have a group that I formed called Ghosts and Girls Paranormal. And the other girl that's in it with me, she doesn't do what I do or anything like that, but, she can sense them and things like that. I said, do you want to go? And she's like, yeah. I said, you have to make sure you're on your A game. You have to make sure that you have your protection in place. So we went to the place, knocked on the door, and the demon answers. There's no other way to say it, because the woman's eyes were black and she was growling at me and telling me in Aramaic to go away. I'm like, and she slams the door. My friends are looking at me like, what? I'm like, no biggie. Knock on the door again. This time she was in control. We went inside. Ariel never is out for any length of time, but she was out for 3 hours.
Wow.
Because there were 11 entities within this woman. She'd been putting up possessed for like 20 years.
Oh, God.
Yeah, she was thinking she's never going to get help. And so we got down to the last one, and I looked into its mind, and I'm like, oh, all right. So it was supposed to do something for Lucifer. It didn't bother to do it at all, and just decided it was going to take up space inside this woman with the rest of them, and it was hiding out. So it's like, I know what you fear. I said, I know what you were supposed to do, and I know you didn't do it. I said, do you want to go home? I said, I said, if you really want to go home, I said, I'll have Jesus come and he can take you home. He says, really? I said, yeah. And I said, Jesus, come forth. My friends are standing in front of me, and they part ways as this huge hand and arm come towards the woman. And the demon's like, no, you're lying. I can't go home. And so he dug deeper into the woman. So Jesus withdrew. I'm like, so be it. Lucifer, come forth. And my friends are like freaking out because this entity appears at the end of the hallway and walks down towards us. And what they see is like a shadowy figure, black figure in a fedora, double-breasted suit, spats, that type of thing. I see him as he truly is. And he told the demon, you're coming with me. And the demon's like, no, I'm not. And Lucifer looked at me and said, I know you don't want me to harm the woman. He said, so I'll be back for it tonight. And he turned around and walked down the hall and disappeared. So we all went home, and at 3 a.m., we all woke up in our own beds, and we heard it's done. So I called her the next day. I said, please, get some psychological help. You have PTSD. I said, please get some counseling.
Yeah.
So last thing I knew, she was into counseling. So that's good.
Oh, good.
But it's something that my friends are like, to this day, I still can't believe it. I'm like, I said, I bet you didn't know you moved in such exalted circles, did you? He says, my friend that's the minister goes, I always knew God existed. I always knew the devil existed. But to actually see them and to at the same, in the same room, he says, that just blows me away. He says, I couldn't look at his face, the demon, Lucifer's face. He said, it hurt me. It hurt my eyes to look at him. And I'm like, yeah, he's definitely not a sight for sore eyes, that's for sure. But, these things happen, and you just do what you can to help. That's all I can do.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully people want the help, because I'm sure you've probably encountered cases where people have that possession, have that attachment. You can see it, but they're like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, I had this one guy who's like, he had a succubus attached. Really? Okay. And he's like, oh, I think she needs to go. And I'm like, no, you still want her to stay. I said, call me when you're ready. Otherwise,
yeah. Which brings the question, could you by force remove something, or does it always have to be in line with the will of the person? They have to choose it.
No, I can remove it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It's if Ariel's pissed, or if she knows the demon, and she knows the problem it's causing, no matter what, she'll just rip it right out. No problem.
That's cool. That's refreshing.
But, yeah, because it needs not to be in the physical world, plain and simple. That's the way she feels about it. It doesn't belong here. It's not supposed to be here. Yeah, she'd rather kill it than send it back. But there are times when she sends them back, but she'd rather just kill them. That's how she feels with the whole thing.
Yeah, let's just get to the final solution.
Yeah, let's get to the point.
Yeah, I relate. So I feel like I see this too, where some entities and demons, attachments and influences are more like what an advanced virus would be like, in that the virus doesn't really want you to know that it's there and causing all this harm and chaos. So it's not going to be like rash. And I think the younger viruses and demons are like that. They're like, oh, look what I can do. But the more subtle, harder to deal with ones have wiggled in ways that you might not even notice.
Well, a lot of people don't understand that demons are kind of like stalkers. They can watch you for years. What happens is the creepy crawly dudes, the little dudes, they're the girls for the pimp. They'll go out and they'll find go out and find the victims.
Yeah.
And they'll watch them, and they can watch them for months, weeks, years, and until they decide, oh yeah, I think my boss will like that one. So they go and they tell the lesser demon. The lesser demon will watch again. Well, because he doesn't trust the little guys, so he'll sit and he'll wait and he'll watch. He'll watch for your habits, your weaknesses, your strengths. How is your faith? Are you easily manipulated? Do you crave power? What do you crave? Do you have health issues? Are you, in an abusive situation? Are you, abusing substance?
Mm.
All these things play into what they look for. And if they should decide to attach, then it's on. But like I said, a lot of times they'll be stalking you for years and you don't even know they're there. It's like it's people just, well, they think, oh, I'd know if there was a demon there. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. Not until they want you to know.
Do you also think that sometimes they're attracted to what you could maybe describe as like a brighter spiritual light person?
Yeah, they like a challenge.
Yeah.
If they can
It's a
turn,
bigger
a white
prize.
light person to the darkness, then that's another feather in their cap. Or they will. I had a lady that connected with me, and she had what she thought was her friend. Her friend had committed suicide, and she thought it was that person that was talking to her. And she's, oh, let me help you, across the other side. She's a devout Catholic, and it wasn't, of course, it was a demon. She ended up with that demon stuck on her for like 5 years. The church wouldn't help her. They thought she was crazy. After that, she stopped talking to them and she started looking for other avenues.
Good. Yeah.
But
Well, it's very, I think common, almost, maybe common isn't the right word, but that trick, I think, is like a trick that you can use. A similar thing happened in my experience too, and it was like plucked straight from my brain, like, oh, I'm totally this thing. And I was like, oh, I can interact with that thing. And like almost too late did I realize what was going on. And it's hard though, because I do think you can interact with the spirits of people who've passed on. So
oh yeah,
how could you advise someone, if you could, how to tell the difference?
look at the eyes.
Hmm.
The eyes will tell you. If you look at the eyes and you see human eyes, yes. But too many people see the overall picture of the individual and say, oh, that's my friend or my mom or my brother or whatever, instead of really looking at the eyes, because they can't hide their eyes. They cannot hide. The lesser demons have, these red eyes, and the old demons have the golden eyes. And if you look in the eyes, it'll hurt you to look in the eyes. A normal person, it hurts them to look in the eyes. So that's the biggest telltale sign.
That makes a lot of sense. And
yeah.
And I would imagine that if you can't get a clear enough view in whatever way you're experiencing this, you should probably just say, no, go away.
Yeah.
If it's someone who loves you, they're not going to be mad.
Yeah. Or, you get this sick feeling in the pit of your stomach.
Yeah, that's what I always advise people. Like, how does it feel?
That's not somebody you want to deal with when you get that kind of a thing, because that's your soul connection is telling you, run the other way.
Yeah.
Please run the other way.
Which you have to learn to trust in physical life too, but it works on all dimensions of your being.
It does. You have to listen to your gut instincts, because they'll never lead you wrong, because that is your soul connection.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. People use their brain. They don't use that soul connection. You're like, oh, that looks like my friend, without looking any closer, without saying, well, why does my friend make me feel sick to my stomach?
Yeah.
That shouldn't be happening. But they don't do that. They're just like, oh, there's my buddy. And it's like, I tell people, if you're investigating and you're in a known place that has negative entities, I said, the best advice I can give you is, if you see something that you think is negative, don't say, hey, Joe, shadow person here.
Yeah.
It's like, don't do that, because if you ignore it, it walks on by. But if you acknowledge it, then it's on.
It's like, ooh, a little entrance.
Yeah,
Thank
it's like,
you.
oh, let me see what I can do to this person, And it's just, it works that way. If they can see you, if you can see them, it's on. They'll attach. They'll give you problems. They may follow you home. It's like, a lot of groups contact me and say, well, we were. And I'm like, don't be stupid and provoke, because, it can do a lot more damage than you ever thought about it.
Yeah. I don't understand people who go looking. I'm like,
I don't either.
Just don't.
Yeah,
bad
it's
enough
like,
when it just happens.
it's like, it's just plain stupid because it's like, really, I mean, you're fighting something you can't see, you can't hear, you can't feel, and you can't outsmart.
Yeah, yeah. I think
So,
people think they can outsmart them, and I'm like, no, they're ancient.
yeah, I don't think so.
No.
The old demons, no. The younger ones is pretty stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah, the older ones are really intelligent. And of course, they don't like me to say that, but it's true. I don't care.
Just being honest. Well,
Yeah, like,
and I also think people can practice this right here and right now by every time you interact with a person, start maybe with your family and friends and just check in, say, how do I feel? What am I feeling internally and emotionally in my soul connection? And then, oh, it feels like this, it feels good. Then wait till you meet like a negative person and feel that, and like it's the same in all these places. So you can practice that and trust that. But someone in the chat asked, and I'm sorry you guys, I don't remember who, but it was a good question because a lot of people talk about reptilians and the reptilian influence on the world and all of this. Do you think that that's a real thing? And if so, is that the same as saying demons, but just in a different way?
well, remember, they can make you see them as they wish to be perceived.
Yeah.
So if your head is into reptilians, that's how they're going to show themselves. That's it. In a nutshell, it's like if you're into Cleopatra, they're going to show you themselves as Cleopatra, but a really nasty one.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's all shapes and sizes, and like I said, they can make you see them as they want to be perceived. So
yeah, and like you said too,
they
can pluck it straight out of your mind. Like, okay, you like this. Like,
this is what you think I should look like. They reach in and they look for your image of what a demon should look like, and then they pull it out and they manifest themselves only 100 times worse. And it's like, this will scare the living tar right out of you, and then they feed off of the negative energy out, the fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what they do.
And then they just poke the button and you spew more fear at them and they're stronger. And
they're freaking out and they're like, oh, dinner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dinner
and a show.
The best party ever. Well,
dinner and a show.
Before we get into some of the ideas of how maybe people can protect themselves too, I wanted to ask you, what about mental illness in your opinion? Because I do see a lot of people who are mentally ill and it is because of these entities. Right. Is that your experience, or do you think there's a difference?
There are differences. Being a nurse for 46 years, I can tell you, there's real mental illness. And then there are the demons that whisper in your ear and talk in your head and make you think you're going crazy. But the thing is, that's kind of hard for lay people to understand. I know I've come across people that, it's just mental illness, and I tell them, what you're feeling around you is good. It's not bad. It's okay. They're not wanting to harm you or anything. And then there are the ones that do have the demon attachments, which is making them feel like they're going crazy. They're hearing voices and things like that. And because of what I have inside of me, I know the moment I see them, the moment I get an email, the moment I get a picture, I know it's there. It's like, okay. But with all the COVID and all this other garbage that's going on, it's like, it's ramped it up. So I get like 25 to 30 requests for help about every 3 or 4 weeks. So there's a lot of it. And then I work full time. So it's like I have to work full time and I have to do the removals on my weekends off, and my days off, things like that.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I get to you as soon as I can. I work for a living. So I work 10-hour shifts. I go home.
Do you do the removals remotely?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't have to be there. Yeah. I've removed them as far as Australia and the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Yeah. All I need is a picture. I had a lady from Germany the other day. Like, okay.
Like soul doesn't have these space-time boundaries.
No, it's one of the things I learned when I was on the other side is there's no distance, and you can be in 1,000 places at the same time.
Yeah.
And never move a muscle, And one of the biggest things that I learned when I died was that in their world, whether it's the dark or the light realm, thought becomes reality. And it's the intention behind the thought that gives it power, whether it be for good or for evil.
That's powerful. Yeah, and I've thought this very frequently because I feel like more and more I have the ability to do things like that, or like manifest in my life, right? But the more clear it becomes, the more I'm like, I would like to slow down a moment because what if I accidentally start thinking negatively and now I'm like creating that and like I don't have that much control yet. So I'm glad that we don't have that.
You have to kind of crawl before you can walk.
Yes.
It's but I've been doing this for 62 years, so it's like okay, whatever.
Right. Someone's asking in the chat too, do demons masquerade as guides, or is that energy too distinct? I'm slightly wary of channels, as in channelers, I think.
Yeah. No, they can mask themselves, but the thing is, it's like I said, even if you can perceive them in your mind's eye, you still have to look for the eyes. And you have to, if you're constantly communicating with your guides and guardians, you have to have, like, it's silly, but it's true. You have to have like a password or a passphrase that makes them know that you are who you are. You know, something that only the two of you would know and nobody else. So and something like that, they can't really reach into your mind to pull out. And you change it frequently. It's not the same one each time. So that way it's kind of like a little, double insurance.
Yeah. It's the secret handshake of your secret society.
There you
go. Yeah, I love that. And having this relationship over time is important, and to not just trust any random, I have had a lot of people who ask for guidance from just random energies, and I'm like, that's exactly how you get an attachment. What are some other ways? I know you described a lot of them already, but are there any more you want to add to like
a lot of times it's simple. A lot of times it's the right place at the wrong time, or the wrong place at the right time. Or you can be at a party and an individual at the party may have an attachment. And that attachment decides they're not having any fun with the one they're attached to, so they go looking for somebody else. And guess what? You got chosen. They follow you home like a little puppy, and they do that, and they'll sit and they'll wait and they'll watch. And it's a process. It's not just, honey, I'm home. They, like I said, again, they start the practice all over again of looking for your weaknesses, looking for your strengths, what you cherish. What can I use against you? That type of thing. Is your animal important to you? Is your child important to you? Your house, whatever. They look for all that stuff, and then they file it away and they use it against you.
Yeah. Like, what scares you the most?
Yeah. It's like, I don't like spiders, They
like, oh, I'll fling one at your face.
And it's funny. It's funny because they try to look like spiders. I'm like, really? I can see through you. It's like, who do you think you're fooling here? It's because that's one thing that helps a lot is when I go to a location or whatever, they think I'm just a human. They don't look any farther than the surface. They don't look at what's underneath. And boy, are they surprised when she comes forward. They want to be anywhere but there.
It's like the mom walking into the house party and the teenager didn't know she was coming home. Like, oh.
There you go. When she comes out, they're like, they try to get away, but it's too late.
Sorry. Not sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
So what about the myths that people have propagated that will not actually protect you from these types of things?
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things. It's like, you have, I went in on a case about 5 years ago where this guy finally contacted me. He'd had demonics attached to him for a couple of years, and it was just, he was at his wit's end. He was thinking about offing himself. It was so bad. It would attack him all the time. And he said, it was crazy. He said, I tried to find help for, so long. He said, one of them would tell me to sleep with a bag of tobacco under my pillow. Another one said, walk backwards in a circle 3 times,
Very specific, yeah.
all kinds of stuff, like people think that crystals will protect them. They won't. They just amplify energy. They think that somebody who shall remain nameless, says, "Oh, just sprinkle brake dust against on the entryway, and that'll keep them from coming in." I'm like, "Yeah, baby, let me go out and get some brake dust."
Brake dust.
Said, in 40 some years, I've never had that help. Or tar water. Oh my God, that's a carcinogen. I mean, really, it's something the voodoo people do. Like, it kills the people that make it, and the people that use it doesn't do them much good either.
God.
There's like a cross, but the problem is people want to use a plain cross. It doesn't work. It has to have the image of Jesus on it.
Really?
And it cannot be an abstract image. So it has to be one with like a crucifix with the real image of it on. Yeah. Like that. That will work.
I've always
Just a
had this.
plain wooden cross, or plain metal cross, that really doesn't work. Holy water over the doors and windows with the sign of the cross to seal the inside. Yes, that will help. Burning incense, the sandalwood incense will help ward them off. I mean, it won't get rid of them.
It's just kind of like how a fly or something will like want to sit on poop. So if you put like a really beautiful thing next to it, it's like, that's not what I want.
Yeah.
But if they were determined, they'd still go through it, right? So it's just it's like a barrier, but it's not.
Yeah, it just slows them. It slows them down. Yeah. I think when I first started removing demons, like 40 some years ago, and God says, "Listen, you got to protect the people that are there, the people that are in trouble." He says, "I'm going to give you a recipe for a black salt," and I'd never even heard of black salt at that time. And he says, "This is the recipe, and I'm going to bless it at each step of the making of it. You have to make it by hand." And I'm like, "Okay." So whenever I go do a removal, I will take some with me, and what it does is it acts. You can put it around the outside perimeter of your home after you get rid of the demons, obviously.
Yeah.
And it will act like a force field. It will protect anything inhuman negative coming through. It won't protect you from a nasty person in life, a nasty person in death. But those are the easy ones to get rid of.
Yeah.
Stage and get rid of those guys. But it's never failed in 46 years. And I have a sister group I formed in the UK, and each one of them wears a cremation necklace, beautiful cremation necklace with the black salt inside of it. And when they go on a location, they can always tell when there's a negative present, because the necklace actually heats up. It's almost too hot to wear when it's protecting. So people are like, "Do you know this gets hot?" I'm like, "Yes, I know it gets hot. Only when it's working. If it's not hot, it's not working."
I've done black salt before. I had someone in the chat just bring up that they've heard of iron being a repellent. Have you heard that, or is that something that? No.
That won't do it. Not in 46 years. The demons are probably laughing.
They're like, "Yeah, let's tell them iron works."
Let's tell them this works. Let's tell them that works.
We have another slightly random question, but I like this question because I would love to hear your opinion on it. And Stormy is asking, do you think drinking the blood of Christ and eating the body of Christ in communion is satanic or dark or whatever?
No. Remember, it's all about the intention.
Yeah, because the intention is you're inviting Jesus into you.
Right.
Yeah.
The intention is to invite Jesus into you. It's like a lot of people will plead the blood of Christ to help protect them against, the negative entities. And it will, ward them off. But if they're determined, it's not going to help completely. I mean, it'll keep them at bay, but that's about it.
Yeah.
That's the bad part. And, it's like I wrote a book called The Dark Side of the Paranormal.
Yeah.
And in it, I give away a lot of ugly secrets of the demons. It's like their MOs, their fears, their weaknesses, because people think that they're invincible, but they're not. They have fears, they have weaknesses. And of course, they didn't want me to write that.
No.
Kind of nasty about that. But I told Lucifer, I said, "Really? I'll do whatever I want, And I've had so many people say that that book saved my life. I knew, you know, it made me understand what was going on, what was happening. And that's how that one guy found me, was the book. And it's a big seller in Europe because they had a lot of issues over there. Anyway, but and they do have weaknesses. Their biggest fear is death, because when they die, you know, they cannot come back. They're gone. I remember the first time that Michael says, I want to show you the death of a demon. And I'm like, okay. So he showed me Ariel slicing through a demon with a white light sword, and its molecules spread among the stars. And I said, well, what did Ariel do that was so bad that she had to come back and live physical world lives? Because she don't like it at all. He says, in 1198 AD, a woman was beseeching God, you know, help me, you know, this demon is possessing me, please take the demon from me, you know. And God sent Ariel, and she's kind of pissy about the whole situation, because she's like, stupid woman, you know, you summoned this thing, and you expect me to take it from you? You know, if you hadn't done it in the first place, you wouldn't have this problem. And the demon, of course, came forward, you know, from the woman and said, you know, screw you, basically. So Ariel reached in and ripped the demon out of the woman, and the woman died. So, and she killed the demon, and she, you know, God said, you know, called for her and said, you know, you have no care for the humans. You have no compassion. You've been up here too long. You forgot to have compassion for mankind. And he says, you're going to go back and live human lives until you learn to have compassion. Oh God, she was upset about that. She didn't want to be in human form. She didn't want to be in physical form. So, like I said, this is life number 131, and I think she's finally learned, but it took long enough. She still hasn't learned patience, though. That's still a work in progress.
Which again, it's like the reverse of what we were talking about, where I'm like, maybe I don't want to manifest so quickly, and she's like, manifest now, why isn't this working? Like, I watch babies, you know, and babies I think are pretty close to source. They're just born, and they like are used to it, right? They're like looking around and they're like, why am I not floating where I'm looking? Like, I need to be over there, and they're like confused.
Can't you hear me? Don't you understand?
Right. I'm like, oh, you poor thing.
Yeah, dogs are like, you know, animals are like that as well. I mean, they're so close, you know, they're closer to God than we are.
Yeah.
They don't have our baggage. They don't have our hang-ups, you know, so when it's their time, they're like, oh, cool, get to go home.
Aww.
You know, it's like, yeah, hey, baby, I get to go home, you know.
So sweet.
And they, you know, when I talk to them, it's like, yeah, I'm like, okay, you know, because people call me for animal communication. I hear them like I hear people.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, well, you know, I really don't like it when they do this, or I don't want to go here, or that food sucks. Give me something really good.
They're like, I know you have beef. You're barbecuing. Come on.
Yeah, fling a little my way, you know. But it's like, at first, once they get past the fact that they can understand you, then it's like, oh, okay, I've got a live one. You know, let me tell you, this is what I want. This is where I hurt. This is what's going on, and that sort of thing.
That's excellent. It's so helpful. Like, you're just serving people on all these different levels. It's really impressive and amazing.
I'd rather deal with animals than people.
Yeah. And
I have people that contact me, and it's like, you know, can you help me and my girlfriend, you know, make things better? I'm like, listen, I don't do people.
Yeah.
I do demons. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
And human relationships are just too much for me.
Well, that's a good thing to talk about too, because I also get some people I think that would like to hear from me that they have certain entity attachments or certain things going on, and when they don't, they're, I think, somewhat disappointed because they would like to blame a lot on that instead of taking responsibility.
An outside source.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's all their fault.
It's got to be that, and I'm like,
yeah,
and
it has
like,
to be. Yeah, it's like, no, you know, I'm sorry, but I don't do people.
Right. Yeah. And this is a really great point too, and I've experienced this as well, and this is sometimes I think the most frightening, but how negatives can reach into the mind of influence to influence people. and animals, right? Have you experienced
Hmm.
this as well?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. They can utilize them, just like they use human souls. If there's a place that I have protected, because I've had this experience where I've protected it and laid down the black salt. Well, the demons can't get through, but they will send like a human soul that's under their command to give the person, like nightmares and do things, where they can't get in. And
That's
they
a
also
very
they
good
also
point.
have what I call, Michael calls them intercessions, but I call them pantyhose portals because they can't get into the location, but it's almost like they're blowing smoke through there. They're pushing their energy through there without being able to actually get into the location. But they'll try to push their energy through there.
That makes
And that can be
sense.
just as disruptive,
Yeah.
if the person, it's really disruptive for animals. It really does not do good things for them.
Yeah, I'm sure that is even harder on them because they're more sensitive and, like you
Yeah,
said, kind of closer to that source. And
yeah.
oh, poor guys. And it seems obvious to me that the answer would be yes, but I would love to hear: can these things kill you or hurt you physically?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
And I don't want to scare everyone, but at the same time, I don't want anyone to lie or
I
sugarcoat anything. So,
I was called in on a case up in Battleground, Washington,
well, I've been there.
and yeah, and this gentleman is like he had a paranormal group that went in, and I happen to know the group, and they basically walked around and stuff like that, and they handed him these crystals and told him to put him in all four corners of the house, and that would protect them. Okay. So he was like ripped out of bed several times during the night and clawed and stuff. He got up when he finally fell asleep and got up the next morning, all the crystals were broken in half.
You're like, ha ha.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, okay. And he's like, this isn't working. So my friend that has the group said, I'm giving you this case. We can't handle this case. This one's for you. So I get there. My friend wanted to go with me, the minister and his wife. And so we get to the location, and it's like a mixture of a lot of different things going on there. But I said, well, let me take care of the demon first. I said, because I know where it is. It's upstairs. So we start going up the stairs. I'm leading the way, and my two friends are behind. And the demon lashes out and tries to push the wife down the stairs. And when that didn't work, he reached into the body of the minister and grabbed his heart and started squeezing. Thought he was going to have a heart attack right then and there. So I pulled the demon away and got to the top, and I'm like, I had it cornered, and I asked it, I said, why are you entombed in the ground? I said, I don't get it. That was the first time I'd come across one of those. He's like, I'm not going to tell you. And then Michael and Gabe appeared on each side of it. And I'm like, you will tell me now, won't you? He's like, I went against Lucifer. And he says, I can't go back or he'll kill me. I'm like, that's okay. I said, because I'm going to send you back. And I won't have to soil my hands by killing you. He'll do it without any problem. And so we sent him back. You could hear the screams all the way. It's like, okay, yeah, not my problem. But he had like his shed. He had an old shed out back that was sitting on top of a portal. I told him, I said, come over here and just touch the building. You can feel the vibration. He said, oh my God. I'm like, yeah. I said, when was the last time you were out here? He said, it's been a long time. And so I closed the portal, and then there were like elementals that were hanging around. They're curious. They're watching. And then the Indians came out of the forest and said, we wanted to thank you for helping the people in there. We tried to help. We weren't strong enough. And then the wife of the guy who had died in the house was being kept there by the demon. So everybody was released after that.
That's so great. Yeah, trapping people is not cool. What?
No, not a bit.
Why do we hear about demons being pulled out and put into other beings, like pigs, for example, from the Bible, or other
Oh,
examples.
from where they cast it out into the pig. Yeah.
Like, why would that even be necessary? Why not just cast it out? Poor pig. Why the pig?
Well, probably because he wanted, because we're humans, and we have to have physical. We have to see it physically.
Ah.
So if you can see that demon was cast into the pigs and they just went right over the cliff,
then you understand.
And
that
so
it's
you're
real.
so you're seeing that it's real. Here's the representation. This is what happens.
So it has nothing to do with like you actually need to put it into something. Because I was like,
No.
what, do they have to go into something? Why
No.
can't they just go? Like, okay.
No, but it helps people to understand. This is the act of being there. It's put into the pig, and the pig committed suicide because there you go.
One of the people who I was able to interact with after they died told me, I said, how was it? And they said, it was really good after I got through all the demons. And I was like, wow, that sounds really bad. Like, she's like, well,
did you take the long way around?
Yeah. But I kind of thought back on her life, and I was like, she had a lot of like drug abuse and like abusive people around her, and so I just wonder if that kind of like clusters around you, if that's
it does. You have to respond to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you have to respond to it. You have to, when you get to the other side, you have to, if you don't make amends here, then you have to relive that stuff when you get to the other side and work through it.
Yeah, that's my other thought. I was like, was she just talking about the review was really dark or something?
No, you have to relive it, review it, so that you can understand why things happen, how things happen.
Which
and
honestly,
once that's through, then you move on.
That's cool. And so let's talk about guardian angels and protection, but I also would like to talk about the hierarchy. Can we do both at the same time? Like, what are the good guys and what are their hierarchies?
Yeah, and in the heavenly realm, there's God and there's Jesus, and then there are the Legion of Light, or the archangels. They're the like right at the top, and then there are the warrior angels. There's the Legion of Light, then there are the other archangels, and there are the warrior angels, which are trained by the Legion of Light. And then there are I don't like to say it, common souls. And then there are the guardian angels, who are like the lesser angels, and they're assigned different things. There are healers, there are people that are, it's kind of like being in the military. Even in the military, there are chaplains, assistants, there are doctors or lawyers, nurses, social workers, all that stuff, shrinks, It's kind of like that. All the warriors have not just one hat. Some may work as social workers, some may work as healers, some may work as guardians. It just depends upon your specialty or what you really want to do, what you're best at. So there's that hierarchy up there. There's a council that God refers to, and they are the ones that kind of like oversee the guardian angels and things like that. If they're not behaving themselves, or they need to be replaced, or there's an issue with one of them or whatever, they will go before them, and they'll make the decision to either replace them or have them do some one-on-one training or something. But okay, don't give me a guardian angel that's not worth powder and lead to blow them up. We need a really good one here. None of that stuff. And then down below there's Lucifer, of course. I never call him Satan, because all demons have a light name and a dark name. So I prefer the light name, the shining one, Lucifer. Yeah, even when he was in the light realm, he was always out for himself. He had very few true friends, but the ones he did have that were true friends, he actually still keeps in contact with, believe it or not. I have a friend in Scotland, and within him resides Hanel, the archangel. And Hanel and Lucifer were great friends. And even after the war, it was a case of, you know what, he stood for what he stood for. He said, I don't blame him for that. Lucifer's like, I don't blame him for that. He stood up for what he believed in. He said, just as I stood up for what I believe in. He said, so I bear him no malice. So he stops by and sees, from time to time. And my friend's like, man. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And he's like, I asked him what he thought of Ariel. And you know what he said? And I said, I can only imagine. And he says his words were, respect the assassin. I'm like, you better respect the assassin, because you go down there and she'll clean his lock.
Yes.
No problem with that.
It's just,
she don't care.
It's somewhat like how I respect the ocean. I'm like, you could kill me real easy. I get it.
Yeah,
we're cool.
You could kick my butt. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's Lucifer, and then he has like first in command, second and third in command. And they're over, like, the old demons are regulated by him. And the younger demons are regulated by the second and third in command. They basically try to keep order within the younger demons and the minions. But then, like I said, there are, unfortunately, the rogue angels the rogue demons that said, enough's enough. We're going to do whatever the heck we want. There aren't as many of those as one would think, but because if he finds them, he kills them. So it's like, let's say that the punishment is worse than the deed there, so to speak. But there are quite a few of them right now to where, and he's trying to basically rein them in. But he tries to keep very good control over all of them. But because if you don't, it appears to be a weakness, and to show weakness is not good, not for them.
Yeah, they're all about might, making right.
Yeah, they're all about strength. And the old ones do have that respect as well for the Legion of Light and God and Jesus, but they have no respect for, the plain angels and the guardian angels and stuff like that. And those ones don't have the power that the demons have. So that's the downside to it, But if you mention the fact that anyone of the Legion, then they back off, because it's like, I've been in on cases where I'm telling them, I said, listen, that you leave them alone. They're off limits. They're protected by the Legion of Light. And I tell them, I said, come back at your own risk. I'll kill you. No problem.
I love it. Fair warning. Fair game.
Yeah. Just like I tell the spiders in my house.
Yeah.
Don't come in there. Don't come in the house. I don't do spiders.
Okay. Or if you're in here, hide so I don't see you. Kill all the bugs.
Stay out of my house. Stay out of my house.
So what is going on with curses? These are real things that people can send against each other, or?
I laugh because in my new book, Demon Seer, The Awakening, there's a chapter on curses. People are, I've had some of my friends read it, and they're like, this is the bomb. This is really good. This makes sense. I'm like, glad you like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Curses, a lot of people, it's not like Hollywood thinks. I curse you for 100 years, that type of thing.
Yeah.
No. That's not how it is. What usually happens is it's one of two things. Either it's a human spirit that has died tragically, or what it thinks of as tragically or unfairly. And instead of ascending, it will stay earthbound. And if you, say you were screwing around with this woman and you wouldn't leave your wife, and this woman thinks you're going to leave your wife, and she dies. So she's going to attach herself to that individual. And if she's really, really pissed off, then she will attach it. Once he dies, that one dies, he attaches it to the son, grandson, and moves on down the line till she's through being pissed, which probably won't be anytime soon. So that's one of the reasons. The other one is it's a demon. You've got a demon stalking you, a demon attached to you. You hear people say, I have this black cloud hanging over my head, everything's happening, nothing's going right. And it's usually a demon. Okay, I had this one lady when I was down back in 2009 promoting my book in Vegas. I was doing readings and stuff, and there was a knock at the door. And I told my hostess, I said, do I have another, person to do reading to do or healing? And she's like, no. I said, you need to answer the door. I said, because this person that's coming has a demon attached to it. So just let her in. We'll take care of this. I could see the demon outside screaming and hollering. They bite me. So the woman comes in. And I said, all right, how long have you had the demon attachment? She's like, oh my God, is that what it is? All my life. All my life, she says. When she was 3 years old, she was in a car accident that killed her parents.
Oh.
And she died and came back in that, but something came back with her. Something negative came back with her. She said, all my life, it's been like a dark cloud hanging over my head. Nothing goes right. My parents died. My cousin got conservatorship over my money. He won't let me have any of my money. He's embezzling it, everything. I'm like, well, yeah, if I had that attached to me, I'd be, having a bad day too. Yeah. So I removed it from her, and she wrote me a couple months later. She says, I'm off to Europe. She says, my cousin's in jail now, and I'm good. I'm like, oh, good for you. You go, girl. Go.
It's so much easier when there's not supernatural forces keeping you down for your whole life.
Yeah, I know. It's like, yeah. But, it's something like that. You have a demonic attachment. Or even if it's just a little creepy crawly dude hanging out, they're a pain in the rear end. But, you can tell because they're like, people think that if you have an attachment, that it only affects the individual, but it doesn't. It affects everyone within that individual circle. Mm-hmm. Guess what it tries to do is it tries to drive away your support system. It tries to isolate you. Your finances go in the toilet. Your health goes in the toilet. Your relationships go in the toilet. And it's all because these things are trying to do that to you. And it's like, and you have unless you're really savvy, you don't know what's going on until it's too late. And then I've had people, like I said, the woman for 20 years and nowhere to turn, nobody to help.
That's what's so sad to me. And we don't talk about it very often. And when you do, people are like, oh, they're talking crazy. That's crazy stuff.
Yeah. When my friends of mine had been trying to talk me into doing Body, Mind, Spirit Expo for years. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do it. It's so boring. But I gave in and did it one time. And they're like, oh, you get to give a free lecture. And I'm like, okay. And my friend's like, oh, talk about, the angels and stuff. I'm like, hell no, I'm not talking about no angels. I said, I'm going to talk about the dark side of the paranormal. I said, people need to understand that. And so I was a little bit late getting into my lecture. I walk in the room, and it's like a standing room only. And I'm like, okay. So I give my lecture, and I go back to my table. I sold out of my books in the first 30 minutes.
Because people need
help. And it's like, we want to thank you for talking about it. Nobody talks about it. It's like, in Reiki, they tell us, don't read about it, don't talk about it, don't look at it, none of that stuff. And our Reiki masters would tell us that because it would, bring it towards you. It would attract it. I'm like, hell no.
You have to look at it to get rid of it.
Yeah, I said, if they want to find you, they don't need no help. They'll find you. I said, it's not a big deal, It's like, so that's when I decided to write Dark Side of the Paranormal.
Yeah.
Because I thought people need to know. People need to be able to see what's happening to them. They need to be able to, even if the book just explains what's going on with them, and they can say, oh yeah, let me find the person that wrote this book, and that's what usually happens.
Yeah. So what would you suggest? Oh, before I get there, actually, this is a good question too, because I've had the same battle my whole life dealing with these things, and sometimes I get to a place of compassion where I'm like, oh, I don't know what happened to them, or like why, and I always have to stop and be like, no, I can forgive in my heart, but I'm not going beyond that and reaching out. But the question is, should we forgive demons?
That's a weakness. That's a weakness.
All right, that's why
they'll use that against. They'll use that against you. No, don't feel sorry for them, because they have the choice.
Yeah.
I mean, Azrael is down there, waiting. If they truly repent, they truly want to go home, then all they have to do is ask him.
Yeah.
And he'll judge them. And if he finds that it's truly what they want and they're repentant, he'll take them to the light, and then they'll have to be, they'll have to go into limbo for a while, and the archangels will, see how they progress and things like that. But it's one step closer to the light.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have no sympathy for them because they piss me off.
And honestly,
especially if they're picking on animals and children, that really pisses me off. It's like I have no problem slicing them, dicing them.
yeah, that's
No
awesome.
problem.
Yeah, because we can't. It's the same in life, right? You can have compassion for people who are messed up and abusive and whatever, but that doesn't mean you go connect with them and be like, I forgive you. You just leave them to their thing.
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, because to get involved in it is, just like with the demons, get involved with it. And people are like, oh, what are they saying? What do they say to you? Do you sit down and talk to them? I said, hell no, they've got nothing to say that I want to talk about.
There's nothing they have that you need. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing I want to hear. So it's like, the only ones I talk to are Herb and Lucifer.
I love it. So then the last thing I want to ask you before we talk about, your books and where people can find more from you or connect with you if they would like your assistance or any of those types of things, and your final thoughts is, if you had to give just a crash description of the best ways to protect oneself, what would you throw out there? I know we talked about a few, but
the power of prayer, it will ward them off. I mean, and mentioning, invoking the name of Jesus, God, that will help to ward them off. Like I said, to protect your home, you can put, holy water or anointing oil over all the entrances, whether it's a window or a door. Like I said, my black salt, if you lay it down as a barrier, because it's got angelic energy in it, Ariel's, they don't want to touch Ariel, and God's energy, it has never failed in 46 years to protect. Or you can wear, you can get some of it and put it in a cremation necklace and wear it. You can carry it in your purse, in your car, whatever. It's, that will help. Like I said, a crucifix, with the name, with the image of Jesus on it will help to ward them off. Is there a surefire way to protect yourself against them? No. I'd be lying if I said, oh yeah, try this 100%. I mean, the black salt is the closest I can get to 100%. Because, people say, well, you could just go online and buy black salt. I said, sure you can. It's not going to help you. It's not going to do what mine does. And that's because of all the energy that's in it. I said, but the thing is, it's not, you can carry it, that they'll get to people that you love. They'll choose to get around you, to get to you. And one guy that got, was getting to his mother, to his dog, making him crazy, but because it couldn't get to him. So, like I said, can I say anything's 100%? No. I think my black salt's about 90% or 99%, but anything else, no.
And essentially too, like you brought up earlier, it's that belief in yourself and of not of yourself, but do you know what I mean? Like you said, if you have doubt, if you have fear, you you have to do your best to practice to get those out too.
You can't show fear. You have to know that yes, they can hurt you, but they can only hurt you if you have a weakness, if you have doubt in what you're doing and in your faith in God. If you have strong faith in God and you utilize that faith to create, thought becomes reality. Put up a shield, all these things will slow them down.
Yes. Well, you've told us about your books and some of your work and all of this, and there's a lot of links below for anyone to click on, but for people who are listening or who might not have that right in front of them, what would you like to share with them about what you have to offer and where to go to get it?
You can find any of my books on Amazon.com. Just type in June Lundgren. There's like 9 of them there. And I have A Medium's Guide to the Paranormal. That was the first one I wrote. And it's got a lot of information about a lot of different things in it. And it's a basic primer. And then I have like Paranormal Encounters Book 1 and 2. Those are like my real life paranormal encounters. And then there's the dark side of the paranormal, which tells you all about the dark entities and how they work. And it's got protection in there as well. I wrote a romance novel called Out of Time. but it's a different romance novel. It's told from the viewpoint of not only the hero and heroine, but the dogs and the guardian angels. So it's, you get them in on the conversations and things. And then I wrote a children's book called Susie's Big Adventures. It's got nothing to do with the paranormal. Got a little Springer Spaniel puppy that comes to live on a farm in eastern Oregon. It's her adventures with Pork Chop, the wiener pig, and Thomas the rooster, and Oscar the barn cat. And I wrote one called Petals, Golden Wings. It's a children's Christmas book about how angels got their wings.
I love it. That's so
and
sweet.
I have two books coming out. One's called Demon Seer. It's the first Demon Seer, The Awakening. It's the first of a 4-volume set, and it talks about, how the negatives are influencing in the world today, what to look for, the people, how they're influencing them. It's bringing awareness about, how they're working in the world today. And there are a couple of really good chapters that I think that everybody should read. One's on curses, one's on, how, protection and where to find help. I have links in there to the Johnson brothers and the Archbishop of the Order of St. Michael, and a few others in there that I have that they've all agreed to, let me put their stuff in there so they can find help as well, because I'm on the West Coast and a lot of them are on the East Coast, so that gives a little more help.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool and helpful. Awesome. Well, June, it's been fantastic to talk with you tonight and to hear your amazing, incredible stories and experiences and skills and abilities and connections. What kinds of thoughts or ideas would you like to leave people with if you could give them one more little nibble?
If you think you have a negative energy, stop talking to you, attached to you, any of the above, do not try to get rid of it yourself, because, or say you think you have something negative in your house, do not, for God's sakes, do not sage. Because to sage is to make it know that you know it's there, and the activity will ramp up like 100%. It's really bad. If you think you have something negative, don't sage, because they know you're trying to get rid of them, and they'll just it'll make it even worse. I've had that happen so many times with people saying, "Well, I saged and it got worse." I'm like, yeah, I know. Believe me, I know. But don't mess with it. Go find a clergy, find an exorcist, find deliverance minister, anybody you can like that. Just get help that way. And if all else fails, you can always give a shout. Send me go to my website, mysticconnections.org, and send me a message.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And fellow travelers of the path, it is a beautiful thing. This has been your analog, electric, concentric dose of wisdom according to the Demon Seer, June Lundgren. June, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
For all that you do.
Thank you.
Well, the darkness is all around us, and sometimes we get lost in it. It paralyzes us, and we fear its presence. The fear is difficult to avoid unless you're practiced. So practice. Invite the truth into your heart. There is far more light than dark. Invite your spiritual allies of light and truth to stand alongside you. Kick the darkness out of your sphere with authority and ask for divine assistance to do so. Imagine the vast worlds of infinite light beings and high energy entities that love you unconditionally and eternally, and feel that love. Wrap yourself in it like a shield and blanket of warm protection. And until you know for sure you're always safe and loved, travel well, aim for balance, and always look inside first. Mwah.
Motherfucker unknown. Yeah, come on. In the place with my fist up, meaning I resist the bullshit that they feed us and lead us. This is just a part of the process, man. Just watch this, cause this shit is about to get crazy like a mosh pit. We lost it, toss it, let's start it again. Cause now with technology, with smarter men and women, this is the beginning, not the end. If this is the message of hope that I send, look on your TV, it's a culture of death. They'll keep on lying to the very last breath. We keep on striving and spreading the truth. It's hard to survive in this world for the youth. The door is closed, the old world is dead. Let's have an age of understanding instead. I'll include you and you include me. Let's see what we can build with some positivity. Let's go, you're moving too slow. Let me see your hands if you know what I know. Come on.
Rap like mummy, ain't no dummy in my rhyming. Started flowing freestyling, now they rhyming loud silence. On with the violence, bodies piling with the gray-bearded pirate. On your TV in 4K 3D virtual reality. Casualty of urban warfare. I know but I'm not scared, just prepared and aware. Shining my light through the tunnel of hope. Into the rope, but I'ma give it one more pull. Till the family is full. Take the bull by the horns and lead it to the slaughter. That would be harder and you would be softer. Sometimes I'm a monster, and you forever imposter. With just champagne and lobster. This royalty, the way it was supposed to be. Hopefully the new door opens and the old one closes. With way more focus and growth to mold us. And the truth that they should have told us.
To them screens, it's a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rulers that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood wands of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed sloppily. The poppers see this mockery and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet. Everyone got a gift, everyone got a light. They want you to forget that ish, cause they can't dim the bright. The positive vibration takes you past the sign shackles. From the sewers and the alleys in the moving castles. Who these assholes really serving with an exposed Achilles surgeon around the corner lurking to prove ascension trumps perversion. Learn them to catch fish and unplug the signal. Show them the simpletons now build the fucking temples.